Hello, my name is Brad Andrew, but everyone calls me BA. I'm your professor for EB 105 OL, International Economic Issues Online. This is a course I've been teaching since my first semester at Juniata, which was 17 years ago. It is a course that really helps you understand many of the current events dealing with international economics. And when I say that, I mean the buying and selling of goods and services that travel across a country's borders, and also the funds that flow across a country's borders. Now, that's a kind of a generic description, but it is it's an area, it's a realm that's generated quite a bit of controversy recently. It, in fact, helped contribute to Donald Trump's election as president, because he was very critical of globalization as it is being carried out in recent years, and many people agreed with him. So we're going to talk about why nations trade. We're going to talk about the various reasons why people are upset about that. And hopefully we will get a better understanding of many of the key issues so that you can make a decision yourself about where you stand on this. Now, before I go any further, I just want to introduce my wife, Susan, my son, Cameron. All right. This picture is a little over a year old, so Cameron looks a little older now. He's got some peach fuzz. But this is this is my family. Susan doesn't necessarily want to have anything to do with international economics. She'll talk to me about it sometimes if it's like early in the morning, all right, and she's well rested. She doesn't want to talk economics with me in the evening. My son Cameron, if I think maybe we'll have one or two videos from Cameron. I do fear that at some point he might get into my account, make a bunch of videos, post them to Moodle, and basically just take over the course. And starting out by telling everybody that he's the smartest Andrew in our family, and so you should learn from him, not me. So and I'm really not. I'm only really stretching the truth a bit, just a bit. He's very confident in himself. But this is my family, Susan and Cameron. Now, just getting back to the course. As I said, this is a course I've taught for 17 years, and what I've tried to do is I've tried to make this as down to earth and accessible as possible, because this course can be taught in a very quantitative, technical way that generally, I'm afraid, just alienates a large segment of the class, and doesn't tell you really the importance of international commerce. I want you to have a feel and an understanding for why this is important, why trading with other nations is valuable. I want you to understand not just the costs, because you see the costs on a regular basis. Anytime a factory is closed down, there's a good chance that the reason it was closed down is because it was the particular factory was relocated to China or to Mexico. But I want you to understand the plus side of that, the fact that we now can get food and clothing and a lot of other necessities far cheaper than we once could. And that's because we're taking advantage of their relatively more efficient production process. And so I want you to have both sides, because for many years, what I've learned from my students is that they've heard the downside and often seen the downside as a factory closes, but they haven't seen the upside. they don't understand that there's an invisible upside that is quite positive for society as a whole, um, quite positive for the world as well. So we're going to talk about international trade, both theory and impacts of international trade. We're going to talk about various international economic issues, because issues is in the class title. International trade is a crucial part of that, but the impact of international trade is crucially important too. And when I say talk about that, I'm referring primarily to use of the forum. Now, on the forum, I'll post questions. I want you to respond to those questions. But I also want you to respond to posts that other students made. You have several students in this class who will be posting on the forum, and so what I want you to do is to, I have listed within the forum the directions, but I want you to respond not only to my question, but also to the responses by your fellow students. This is part of the conversation that takes place in an online class. And it's important. It replaces the conversation that we would normally have in class. Now, what's really good about this particular class is that we have single digits in students enrolled. I think the last I checked we had 7 or 8 students. So that compares to roughly 40 to 45 in a typical class. So we can actually have a lot more one-on-one interaction. So now, one thing that I just want you to know, I'm saying it here, I will say it, I will write it out on the forum, I'll write it out on the Moodle site, which is that when you respond to a student, I just don't want to see, great job, you really know what you're talking about, that was awesome, something like that. That doesn't count as a response, right? That doesn't count as a response. That is what a lot of Juniata students do, and part of that I understand, that generally people are pretty supportive of one another, but that doesn't help move the conversation forward. What I really want you to do is to reflect on what the person said, show me that you understand it, and then take it a little bit further. All right? Take it a little bit further when you respond. So now there's a part on the Moodle site for the class. It says students helping students. Now, whether it be in the forum or in the students helping students section, I want you to post questions there. Posting questions is a great way to participate. If you post a question or answer a question, in my mind, they're both equal to one another in terms of your contribution to the overall class participation. The contributions you make on the forum or on students asking students are significant, and that by participating regularly, that's an easy way to get 20 out of 20 in terms of a percentage that is contributed to your grade. It's an easy way to get 100 is basically what I'm trying to say. It's an easy way to get 100 on that section of the class, and it is it's an important section. It's important to respond to each other. It's important to ask questions of each other, because the educational research shows, surprisingly, that when students help one another learn, it's actually better than the teacher answering questions. Now, we don't know why, we just know that peer-based learning, where students help other students learn, works better. And so the course is set up in a way to help facilitate that, to encourage that, so that you take advantage of the knowledge and the ability to communicate of your fellow classmates. And I just want to reiterate, questions count as much as answers do. If you ask questions, that's important participation, as important as answering the questions. Okay, I think that's about it. I'll be checking in regularly in the class to see how you're doing. I'll be on the forums, looking at the students, helping students section. If you have questions, please put them on the forums because other people might have them too. And by asking and answering them on the forum, that means that everyone now has access to not only the question but the answer. And so if they have the same question, it's now answered. Ideally by another student. I might throw hints along the way, but I prefer that you guys try to answer as much as you can on your own. Probably the most important skill that students can develop is learning new skills on their own, and I hope this class is part of that process. Thanks.